Hi everybody, thank you for joining me on today's edition of Glen's Retro Show. I was very fortunate to be able to sit down a little bit with Scott Bachrach. Scott is the current CEO of Tastemakers, who is the parent company of Arcade1UP. He's currently on a business trip in Hong Kong, and I was able to grab him for about an hour to talk a little bit about Arcade1UP, how things are going, and where he wants it to go. So without further ado, let's get into the video with Scott. Hi everybody. First I want to take a big thanks out to Scott Bachrach from Tastemakers, who is actually in China right now via Skype talking to me about some of the things we're going to discuss about Arcade1UP. Scott, first of all, thank you for coming on Glen's Retro Show.
Glen, thank you so much for having me. It's really my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Great. We'll probably get into why you're in China a little bit later, but there's a couple things I want to touch on right now. When Arcade1UP first came on the scene, I remember when I first saw it on Facebook last year. I mean, it came out of nowhere. I mean, I had no idea who you guys were, and I started seeing these cabinets, Asteroids, Centipede, and I was going crazy because Asteroids, those type of games were what I grew up on. So what really started you guys saying, you know what, there's a market for this, let's try and make some of these machines for sale? How did that start?
Right, so, the reality is this is a product that came out of literally a passion project, for lack of a better word. Our business has been around for many, many years. Tastemakers has been around for, 7, 8 years, and I've been in the industry of manufacturing business for over 30 years. And we've been involved with many, many, many high-profile brands, from retro music to retro toys and different things. And I say that as a backdrop because it'll be a good lead into kind of how this evolved. I was literally sitting with one of my lead designers about 18 months ago, and we were sitting in an office going through some different product ideas, and I had one of those little handheld devices, the little video games, whichever one it was, and I played it, and I had my own feeling of what that experience of that game was. And then I went to Urban Outfitters, and I was walking through Urban Outfitters, and I saw an Atari Retro plug and play, right? And I think it was like $70, $80 like that. And I went home, I bought it, and I went home and I plugged it in, and I played it. And to me, it wasn't a true arcade. It wasn't a real arcade experience the way I remember an arcade experience, right? And literally the next day we walked in, and I just said, why can't we just put gameplay in a smaller machine? That was literally the way the idea started. I can, in very short order, I'm very fortunate that I've got an amazing creative talent pool that we work with that happen to, independent of me even knowing it, happen to love the arcade industry. And so 2 weeks later, at our next product meeting, we were going through a variety of different subjects, and in the corner of my eye, I saw somebody had actually made a prototype sample of a Pac-Man machine. They made it out of foam core, a 3D model rendering. And I looked at it, and I basically looked at everybody in the meeting, and I said, I think we've got something special. And we all talked about some different things, and I said, I think we have a business, not an idea. We have an idea that's going to form into a product, and a product that I think could be a business for us. That's how it started. Excellent.
Now, in talking about that, your initial launch titles was, Asteroid, Centipede, Street Fighter II, Rampage, Pac-Man, of course, which was probably the biggest title, I think, out of the bunch. Galaga, another big heavy hitter. And then your 12-in-1, and there was also an Asteroid Deluxe 6-in-1. And they were carried by quite a few vendors. Walmart probably being the biggest one I could think of off the top of my head. But there was GameStop, there was Home Depot. How did that partnership start? I mean, how did that come about?
Right. So again, our DNA as a company is all about working with brand holders and bringing product to retail. So we've been working with the likes of Targets and Walmarts and GameStops and Kohl's and a variety of different retail partnerships for the last 20 plus years. Right. So those retail partnerships have always been there. When we came up with the product idea, it took us about 6 months to get some initial ideation and costing exercises and things like that. And truth be told, when we started this project, nobody ever thought it would be as big as we didn't realize the nerve that we would hit in a good way, And I remember saying to my lead designer, if we sell 5,000 or 10,000 pieces, I would call this product to be a success. I really would. and certainly it's become much greater than that. But anyway, the short answer is we showed it to the retail community, and they went absolutely crazy. I mean, crazy because
they're our age. They're our age, and they remember these things, and they're pumping tons of quarters in them.
Totally. I remember Asteroids was my game, right? Like Asteroids, Pac-Man, Galaga. Those were my games. I'm a 50-year-old guy, And it's funny. We call these things like time machines because as I'm sitting here talking to you about this, I'm remembering the Asteroids machine I played in a place called Brooklyn's Famous Pizza in Los Angeles, California.
It's always a pizzeria, same thing. Pizzeria for the place.
Always a pizzeria, right? But it's so funny because I remember going there. I remember putting my quarters up on the machine. Remember we used to put them at the top to save our place, and I don't know. It's just they're time machines. So, anyways, when you were starting to say how did those begin, the first brand partnerships began because I loved Atari. Truth be told, that's how it started. And so I picked up the phone and through a series of different conversations, found out who the brand holder rights were, and we met with them. And first we told them the idea, and I think they were kind of like, "Yeah, sure, show us something," because I don't think anybody believed what we could pull off. And we walked in there with a working prototype, and everybody was pretty blown away. And that's how it started, and then it kind of snowballs from there.
Excellent, and they were everywhere. Now, I want to bring up one thing here. When we talk about like the Walmarts and the Targets and Home Depots, I know also that Costco was carrying one, the Asteroids Deluxe, and Correct. It was for a short time, so people were able to get them. But then it looks like that one got pulled out. Is that something you could talk about, just what happened with that?
So because of some of the relationships that we work on with Costco on a number of different things, what I can say to you is that Costco has come back to us. We actually just met with them at the CES show about last week when I was in Las Vegas, and we will be in Costco in 2019, both with that machine as well as some other things that we're working on with them. And I can just say that we felt that it was better to for both companies, given kind of what was going on, to not have that product in there for Christmas time this year. That was a late development.
Okay, so right now you'd be saying, I guess at this point, that the current carriers of your product right now, so far as you know, are going to be continuing to carry the products going forward?
Oh, every retailer that brought Arcade1UP will be supporting Arcade1UP in 2019, and our retail channels have absolutely been expanded. Candidly speaking, what we've decided to do this year is put a limitation on the number of cabinets that we're going to be introducing and the quantity on a per cabinet basis that we'll be introducing. And so we'll have some more control over that in terms of when our rollouts will be happening, things like that. But it'll be available in a wide places.
Excellent. And so it's potentially even more. So that we have what we have, there could actually be more coming in the future.
Oh, that was a great... You got me on that one, Glenn. That was good. Yes, there are... Well, we made some announcements at CES, which I'm sure you're aware of.
Yes, sir.
And I'm sure you want to go... I won't say anything about those, because I know you probably want to ask about those. But yes, there will be... we'll be making some announcements at E3 in May. That'll be our next announcement time about our fall cabinet selection. What I can tell you are that the announcements that we made at CES, which were... I think we announced Space Invaders at CES, and we announced Final Fight and Golden Tee, and of course, everybody is salivating on Mortal Kombat. And each one of those will have limited edition runs for the first 8 months of this year. So kind of as you see them out there, they're going to be out there. Particularly, like I think 40th Space Invaders, our 40th anniversary series. It's a one shot up. So.
Yeah, I'll be online for that one.
Yeah, you're going to see it in the marketplace. It should hit the stores in about 45 days, and then it's, when it sells out, it's gone.
And that actually debuted originally in Japan, correct? It's already been in sale in Japan.
Correct, yes. We had a very small quantity that was kind of, for lack of a better word, teased in the Japanese market. And actually, I said Japan. You said Japan.
Yes.
Japan just broke it, but if I'm not mistaken, I think it also, and I should know this for a fact, I think we also teased a little bit of it into the UK as well.
I do have a few people on my official Arcade 1UP fan page on Facebook in the UK,
Yes.
and they do have it. So I thought they had it
Yeah.
shipped from Japan, but it was actually released there.
Yeah, so we did. We had a personal request from somebody who is a big fan of Space Invaders and asked us to do them a little bit of a favor, to be very honest with you.
The Prince?
And so we tried. No, we can't say that, but somebody who did not want to be mentioned, and we did that. And so we released a little bit. And Taito, obviously, who is Taito and Square Enix, who are the brand creators for Space Invaders, launched that actually in December, and have seen tremendous success with it. We've actually been working with them this past 2 weeks. I met with them both at CES, as well as I'll be meeting with them next week in Japan, and they'll be a big supporter of ours as we go into 2019.
Well, that's really cool that Queen Elizabeth is playing Space Invaders. That's awesome.
Well said. Well said. I don't know about her, but it wouldn't surprise me if you saw others playing it very soon online.
As long as it's not the guards out front, they're not supposed to move. They're supposed to stay straight. They shouldn't be playing the game.
They got to stay straight.
So, I mean, the launch overall, like I said, was a very exciting time. People were going crazy trying to find these cabinets, myself included, but I know a lot of people were going around hunting them down. Well, that's the good part. Now, this is basically, like I said, a passion project. That's how it started. And the people who want these are equally as passionate, maybe even more so. With that being said, there were some quality issues with the initial, I'm going to call phase 1 consoles. That Arcade1UP has addressed. We had issues with the control panel, the paint wearing off. That was addressed, where you're sending out overlays. And my understanding now, in the future consoles, those overlays and acrylic covers will come standard with the machines. For me personally, from what I've been seeing, the majority of issues were not like stuff in shipping. The boxes themselves were shipped perfectly fine, but inside the wood would be damaged, or the paint would be really marred on the side things. Really stuff that happened at the manufacturing end. And I know you're out in that area now. Are you out there now as one of the things just to go over the quality control, to maybe tighten up or improve the manufacturing? Because once again, most of the stuff I've seen is not stuff that end user would have saw if it was caught at the factory. So I'm not sure if that's something you guys are looking at right now, if you're making any changes to that going forward.
Right, so all really good and valid questions. So let me just start with our fans. They are our number one priority. When I started, when we as a company started this project, meaning that I've been making toys, and I've been really fortunate in my career. I've worked with a lot of rock and roll stars: Gene Simmons, Ozzy Osbourne, One Direction, Cody Simpson. You name the gamut, we've been involved with them. We've been involved with some heavy entertainers, and one of the things, and trusted brands. We've been a licensee of Hasbro, Mattel, Fortune 75 companies, let's call them Fortune 50 and Fortune 100 companies. They trust their brands with us, and that is based on a reputation of a company that delivers quality, accuracy, and lives to its commitments and everything else. And those relationships are built over a 30-year horizon, right? So when we see things that go awry, because that's the way life is, right? The only thing that allows us to continue on in our business is addressing those issues head on. And I can honestly say that I believe full-heartedly that we have done our best to address every issue head on. In fact, I'm going to go as much to say as I think that we've gone overboard in some cases, and that's okay. And the reason I'm giving all this as a backdrop is because this little passion project that turned into an item has essentially turned into a significant business for us, and one that we are so fortunate to be involved with. And if you look at the stakeholders that are involved with our business, you're looking at the likes of Namco, you're looking at the likes of Taito, you're looking at the likes of Atari and Midway, and I'm just trying to think if there's others that we've recently partnered with that we'll be announcing later this year, and they are the top gaming industry, top gaming companies in the world. They would not entrust their brands to us if we did not take them very seriously. And I really want to get that out because, listen, I watch everything that's happening online to the best of my ability. It's funny. We try to respond the best we can. And most of the people that come back to have legitimate concerns, we love to address. Unfortunately, I think that there's people out there that try to make a name for themselves by just jumping on the bandwagon and making comments that spark negativity. And I guess that's part of the game, right? But so I want to anyway. So that with that as a backdrop, let me give you a response. First and foremost, yes, every single title that is being shipped into 2019 will not only have a new material compound on the deck itself, right? So it's a completely different type of adhesion for the graphics. But in addition, every one of them will have a cover that goes over the top. That's an acrylic cover, acrylic/plastic, I should say, plastic cover. So that those will all be included for free, no additional cost, nothing. It's in there, right? As you said, the product got to the retailers and the consumers in really good condition, and we debated that. There were months of debate about how to ship this product. You got to remember, we basically did something that's never been done before, right? We were able to successfully take a product that sells for $3,000, right? That's a real quality, I'm going to call it commercial grade machine, right? And be able to deliver a home version of that, listen, it's not a commercial grade machine. These are not meant to go into movie theaters. These are not meant to go into the pizza parlors, right? There is a place for that in those $3,000 machines, which I personally love. I love them. They're fantastic, right? This is really meant for the person, the other 98% of the world that would like to have that experience of playing their favorite game, Pac-Man, Final Fight, Mortal Kombat, Asteroids, at home, in the comfort of their home, for a sub $500 bill, right, with beautiful graphics on them that take them back into that space and time that was a place that they remembered, near and dear to their heart. And then, when their girlfriend tells them to move it out of their room, they, in two hands, they can go pick it up, move it, and it doesn't weigh 250 pounds, right? So let's start with that. But yeah, so we're addressing it. In terms of
before you go on real quick, yes. I will say one thing.
Yes.
That when you say these are not like commercial grade, true arcade machines, that's true. But I do know people buying these and basically renting them, like kids' parties.
Yes.
So they're starting to do things like that. So they are being used for that product, for that type of project.
They are. Somebody said the best example to me, and it hit home so clear on me. They're like, Scott, because I like to run, right? I'm a runner, and I go to a gym, right? And I run inside and outside, whatever. And they said, when you go to your gym and you jump on that treadmill, and that treadmill is a $5,000 treadmill that you're riding at your gym, right? When you go and you're able to buy that treadmill at Walmart for $500, right? You're buying a really good treadmill, but you're not buying a treadmill that is going to be worked on every single day from 100 people with the pound and wear and tear that takes place on it,
right,
at your gym.
Right.
And that was like, when someone said that to me, I was like, oh, wow, that's a really great comparison. It's a great comparison. But I don't want to skirt it. I want to answer your question. So the question is, we take quality as our number one concern. So we looked at, first of all, let me start with every one of our factories that we work with are what's called ISO 9000 compliant, which in the manufacturing world means they go through rigorous testing. I mean, intense things that we have nothing to do with. Outside laboratories go in and qualify these makers. The retailers themselves send in their own QC departments to quality control the shipments and the production. It doesn't mean you get 100% accuracy, because in my experience, I've been manufacturing for 30 years, nothing is 100%. You always have issues. The question is how you deal with those issues, right? How fast are you? What's your response time? When you find out something happens as a company, what do you do, right? What do you do? Do you just duck and hide? That's one way to do it. Some people do that. Some people don't. Do you address it to the best of your ability and say, okay, we understand there's a problem. We want to try to fix it to the best of our ability. What can we do? And we think that what we've tried to do is go out to our community and say, hey, listen, as you see things come up, tell us, right? We all know that every major gaming company that I've read about has had something take place in releases, right, in one way, shape, or form.
Well, I could think
And
of the Xbox with the red ring of death as a prime example, and that's true with anything. I just think that the community, and I would say some rightfully so, just some of the stuff they got was just really should have been caught at the factory. Like the ring of death, it was more of a defect in the design, but it still happened, and Microsoft had to step up, and they did, and it was a big thing, and them fixing it was a lot of money for them to do so. And I'm saying people are probably getting hit a little bit. Even these acrylic overlays not expensive, but I'm sure there's a little hit on that. But the initial, I guess, checking at the manufacturer of some of these things definitely has some people taken aback. And I think now you are, again, Harold being a good example. Harold is, works with Arcade1UP, and he's been active in my forums and talking with the community and helping along stuff with, say, the customer support line, which has been another issue. I know, again, you guys are starting out and you're building this thing up. There's been issues with that as well, long hold times, sometimes getting the wrong product shipped out. So I guess what people want to hear is that all these things are being looked at and improved, again, to the best of your ability. Because I do think, from what I've seen, again, I'm not fully back, so I'm kind of involved with this whole thing, this ride you guys are on as well, and doing the reviews and all that stuff, is that people just want to know that you guys are not just here to make a quick buck. And I come in, throwing these consoles out there, and you're going to run. And that is not what I've been seeing. And I guess I want to just hear that from you as well, that you guys are really looking to deliver a good product, deliver on the promises of the arcade experience at home, and not have it be delivered and wait 3 months to get a part because it didn't work when they got it.
Correct. So I just want to, yes. So I'm a firm believer of, what do they say? Trust with verification, right? Trust and verify. And so I don't want to be a typical CEO that comes on your show and says, don't worry, we got it covered. It's all great, right? Trust me, right? I'm going to say trust and verify. Here's what I'm going to tell you, and it's 1,000% accurate. We take this very, very seriously. We are in this for the long term, right? We are going to be, right, if our fans allow us to be, okay, Arcade1UP has a great future in front of us with a lot of content, a lot of things. But we know two things. There's two things that will make the business last forever or not. That is quality control, number one, a priority, and then
has to be.
And then the customer service. Now, the reality is that if our quality control improves, the customer service automatically gets better because it just goes down, right? They go right in hand. Without going into too much detail, I can tell you that that acrylic cover that you're talking about, let's call it, the cost of that is, I'll make it easy. The cost is way under $10 just for that cover, okay? I can tell you that every time we send one of those out, if I was to tell you the cost that it takes to send that out between the call that we take in, the way that we receive it, the way that it gets processed, the way it gets sent out, you multiply it. It is a multiplication of that, let's call it $5 cost item. That cost this company, a lot of money.
Right, exactly.
And we're doing it. And we're doing it because we know it's the right thing to do to show the community that we are looking to constantly improve. So, yes, I want to say very loud and very, very clear with a lot of conviction that we take customer service very, very serious. We have somebody who is now running our quality assurance program who's got 25 years experience in quality assurance. That's what they do. Right? That is what they do. Our customer service, we had never had to deal with a customer service program to the extent that we know that this needs to be. And so, did we have some hiccups? 100%. Do we continue to have some hiccups? 1,000%. But what I can tell you is give us 45 days. There are some things taking place right now in our customer service program that I can guarantee you. Today is January 15th, right?
Yes, sir.
Give me till February 15th. Then tell me how my customer experience is. Because what I can tell you is there's been a number of bodies, time, money, and experience thrown at that to make that. Let's start with, when you call customer service, you're not calling to thank them for your product. Right? You're calling because there's an issue, right? And so we want to make whatever was an issue into the best positive that we possibly can. And I can tell you that it has become the shift and a major priority within our organization to make sure that we get it right.
Okay, on that note, I'm going to ask you a question. What has been your biggest hurdle? What has been your biggest issue in not only making these now, but going forward? What's been your stopgap, your handicap? What's been blocking you guys up?
My personal or our company?
As a company, what's really been holding Arcade1UP from maybe something you guys wanted to do, some roadblock you guys have had, either in getting the product out to, again, quality control to manufacturing? What has been your biggest hurdle in coming to where you are right now?
Well, it's interesting you said that's a great question. You know, you had all of those things coming together simultaneously. What I can tell you is the biggest thing that we're dealing with for 2019, right? I'll go to that because
Sure.
That's an easier thing for me to look at. Is there are so many requests coming out from the community about what they want, and we want to make sure that we satisfy it in a way that meets the demand and not dilute any one particular resource. That coming up with that product roadmap is really important to us, and I think we're doing a really good job with it. We've got some great talent that's recently joined our team. You know, we've got a gentleman that joined us as of 2 weeks ago, John D. John D is a product specialist. John D spent the last 12 years with product integration and marketing at Capcom company. And I think you'll start to see him appear somewhat more in engaging with the fan community. And he has been a great firestorm for us in helping us from I'm going to call it a professional gaming mindset, right? Of what the gamer really wants to see, and some of the things that, candidly, myself, I've never professed to be a gamer, right? Well, what I am is I'm the casual user that likes to play. That's why I like the Asteroids, the Pac-Mans, the
Quick fix games.
But I'll tell you what's been here's what is the coolest thing, Glenn. Here's the coolest thing. The fact of the matter that I've come to realize is that once you take this and you make it with Pac-Man, somebody loves it. You take it and put it in Mortal Kombat, a totally different audience loves it, because that passion that I had for Pac-Man and Galaga and whatever, there's that whole community that has that for Mortal Kombat. There's a whole other community that has that for Golden Tee. There's a whole other community that may have it for Final Fight. There's a whole other community that, I'll say this, we hear your requests, and I think you'll love I think in addition to everything we've already talked about, some of the things that you're going to see coming out in October, November, you'll be really excited about it.
Yeah, like I said, there's so many different things out there. A lot of people in the forums, I think initially were like, Golden Tee, what? But people didn't realize that Golden Tee was a huge game in bars and restaurants. And there was a huge demographic for that game. So it's actually a very smart move, whoever came up with that one, bring that one out. But a lot of the younger, when I say younger, people my age, maybe like I'm more of a Asteroids or Pac-Man or Tron, hint, Berserk, hint. And that kind of leads into my next question about the licensing. Because obviously you need to talk to these manufacturers. You need to see what they're able to even license. Because some companies don't even own the rights to some of these games anymore. Someone else has it. So I'm sure you can't really talk about who you're talking to. But I will say, and you probably already know, a lot of people are talking about what I'm wearing on my hat here, good old Donkey Kong, Nintendo. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Nintendo is extremely protective of its intellectual property. And I don't know if you had any talks with them, or if you even can, if they even will talk to you. I don't know. But that's a huge request I see constantly. It would be like a Donkey Kong cabinet, Donkey Kong Jr. cabinet, a Popeye cabinet. These are all Nintendo properties, or something that they have a part of anymore. So I don't know
Right.
if that's something you could even communicate on at this point.
Well, what I can say is this. First of all, thank you for the comment on Golden Tee. It's funny. Golden Tee is a great example of it wasn't my game, right? But in research showed that it was the #1 bar game in North America. Right?
Absolutely.
And that the people that played it were diehards for it. And so if you kind of also look at I'm going to call it the non-hardcore gaming community, and you look kind of into the general public and some of the places that our product retails for, there's a customer base that's asking for that, right? And so that was the reason that launched, and we made that announcement. In terms of other IP, what I can say to you is that every company that we work with, Tato, Namco, Capcom, Midway, and others, highly guard their IP and want their IP treated as they would want their children treated, right? As I would want my child and children treated. And we take it really seriously. So what I can say is that we like all the games you just mentioned. How about I say that? How about I say that we hear our fans. I have learned so much in reading the fan pages on what people want and like. And what I can tell you is, I'm a guy that likes to satisfy and give people what they want. And our team is, and we are committed to, kind of bringing to the public what they want. Just remember, every pie takes a little bit of time to be baked. And if you pull out the pie too early and eat it, the dough doesn't taste too good. So give it some time to bake. We hear you guys. We hear everybody. And keep the ideas fresh and coming. And we love them.
Excellent. And a little bit more on the licensing. I have another question about that. When you do get a license, I'm going to take the Karate Champ cabinet as an example. And the reason I'm doing that is because my friend Rerez on Hot Take, they had a video recently where they're talking about the choice of Karate Champ. Although it is a absolute classic game, there's no question that it's one of the landmark machines that came out.
He wanted Burger Time.
Correct.
Mistaken, right?
Is there a licensing agreement that say, yes, you can make this cabinet, but it has to be, say, Karate Champ versus a Burger Time?
No, and that's all fair questions. Listen, again, I am who I am. So let me tell you how that one came about. Okay, you know why that cabinet has Karate Champ on the outside? Let me tell you why.
I would love to.
Yeah, because in about, I think it was probably 68, 78, probably 1984, there was a restaurant called Regular John's Pizza in Brentwood, California. My friend's father owned the restaurant, and when Karate Champ came out, I used to play Karate Champ. I loved it. And so when someone came to me and said, do you guys know who Data East is? I said, I have no idea who Data East is, because again, I'm not a hardcore gamer, but I was a guy who loved the games. They go, Karate Champ, Burger Time. I was like, I hope I can swear in your show. I was like, I fucking love that game. I fucking love that game. And, right, exactly. Bleep it out. And, but I got it. And so when someone said to me, what do you want to put on there? And what do you think is this? I'm like, Karate Champ. And they're like, why? I go, because I remember it and I love it. And I want to go back to my time slot. But having said that, so we listen to the community, right? So if someone would have told me, 6 months ago, if I would have heard from enough people that Burger Time was the one that they wanted to see all that artwork on, that probably would have been Burger Time out there, right? And that's what I mean about, process of learning. But what I can tell you is I'll give you a great example around that. So I'm sure you saw at the CES show that we made an announcement that are on our wallcades, right?
Oh, yeah, we'll come into that too, but we can get into that now, absolutely.
Okay, so what I can tell you is when you notice that wallcade, so that wallcade has Joust and Defender on it, right?
Yes.
Two games that were on the Rampage machine.
Yes.
But Rampage machine, there was enough people that wanted that machine as Rampage, right, with the artwork on it. I can tell you, I've received thousands of requests for people saying, I want that Rampage machine, but I want it to look like Joust. And I want Joust to be the color.
Right.
And I said, hello, me, I'm the guy. I agree with you. I love Joust. So, you can take the rest from there about future product announcements.
Well, let me ask you something on that as well, because I heard also you guys are going to open up your own, I guess, store for certain items.
Correct.
I heard rumblings about a spinner. Is there an option, or maybe I'm giving you this idea now, to offer, say, different artwork or different even side panels? If someone wants a Burger Time or someone wants a Joust, okay, they buy the Rampage unit, they can go order new side panels and slap that on.
So the short answer is, yes, we do plan on opening up a store. I think our official launch date, don't quote me on this, Harold will get upset with me. I think it's the middle of March, if I'm not mistaken. What I can tell you is the store will open up for parts that we'll be selling, add-ons that we'll be selling, and as the year continues, we will start to introduce more things. From a business standpoint, that takes on a whole new complexity, right? It's not just making the parts and bringing them in. It's, again, you can't be all things to all people,
right?
So candidly speaking, one of the things, there's only so many people in the organization, and right now, just to circle back for a second, our focus is on, let's make sure that what we're making right now is being delivered properly, that we're addressing some of the concerns that have been raised, that we're fixing those concerns, and that we're moving. But over the long haul, the short answer is that we look to have solutions for anybody who loves Arcade1UP to alter their Arcade1UP machines in a manner that is compliant with the IP rights holders.
Right, and I think that's a great idea because, again, you can't please everyone with a single product. When you buy a car, you buy anything, especially in this community. This community is huge, and if you watch my show, that's all I do, is modify and hack, and giving them official options, I guess, or easier options to put in the machines, I think would be a very good thing. And again, there are people who like it the way they are, and there are people that don't. And that's another little segue I'm going to do here with that is, when we talked about Golden Tee a moment ago, your Phase 2 lineup that you have.
Yes.
Now,
yes, sure.
A couple things I've heard, and it's not really been official, but things I've heard is, taking Golden Tee, there was a light-up marquee that's on there. Is that something that's going to be available to the other machines in the lineup, or is that a Golden Tee exclusive?
So for the initial launch, which will be tied into Father's Day, Golden Tee will be the first cabinet coming out with a light-up marquee. But we've had a lot of requests. We hear it, and I think that come fourth quarter 2019, you will see some of those machines that will be offered in a variety of different ways, both potentially as a purchase or as a mod film. Meaning a way to legally mod your machine out.
Okay,
that's the right way to say it.
And I think, was I also correct in hearing that it's a HAP trackball that's in that unit?
It's a what? I'm sorry.
Is it a HAP arcade trackball? Is it I have to admit, I have Centipede and my 12-in-1, both trackballs. I have no problems with mine, but a lot of people seem to feel that they did have issues with it. And I heard rumblings that the trackball was different in that Golden Tee. Is that true?
Yes, it is. So let me go to. I want to put out the disclaimer. I'm not a technical guy, so my design team is probably going to get really upset with how I describe it because I'm not going to do it justice. But what I can tell you is it is an extremely robust rollerball. I want to say that this rollerball, if I'm not mistaken, and Harold will probably make an official announcement on this later, the trackball. So,
right.
Originally, it was basically working on inside grooves and things like that.
Right.
And it is a much more robust trackball, I would say. We're using real ball bearings, and that process allows it to feel very, very fluid. And from what I've been told from everybody who's tried it, they're quite impressed with it. I can tell you it cost us a lot more,
right?
And people seem to really love it.
Yeah, there was a lot of good feedback from CES on the Golden Tee. So people really were saying that trackball was much better than the previous. So on that, is that something that would trickle down into other machines, or that's right now a Golden Tee exclusive, that trackball?
So that is a trackball that we are using for Golden Tee. I say that as we start to go down the road for other machines that would have those types of trackballs, we would probably look to find the best mechanism. Like I said, with everything else, for us, everything's a learning process, right? So as we go down roads and we make improvements, design improvements, parts improvements, etc., we'll look to implement those into as many places as we possibly can.
Excellent. Another quick question.
And the other thing, Glenn, I just say is we're trying to do something. We always say this in manufacturing, right? We say good, fast, and cheap, right? And then what I've heard for 30 years is you get to pick two. You don't get all three because it's just unrealistic, It's like, I'm a car guy. I love cars, right? I just do. I love cars, right? But whether I could afford a Honda Civic or anything else, right? I can't expect to go buy a Ferrari, right? And go spend $22,000.
Right. I'd like to get a Tesla for $22,000. I'd be on board with that.
I'd totally be on board with that, but I don't think you can get a Tesla for that anymore. I think Teslas are kind of expensive.
Yeah.
Kind of expensive.
Yeah, I missed that Model 3. It's still a little too out of my price range. I think I made $13 on YouTube, so I'm not doing there yet.
That'd be cool.
So let's talk phase 2 real quick. You had CES.
Yes,
you had a lot of good things out there now. Are you upgrading the controls on like the whole board, like new buttons and joysticks for that phase 2, or are you mostly carrying over phase 1 technology?
Right. So it was interesting. Again, you listen to your fans and you hear. I can tell you that we have a more robust controller that will make its way into all the new games for 2019. And again, I'm going to let you kind of roll those questions out to Harold via Facebook. He can respond to you on them. He can give you the particulars, but I know it is a much more robust controller.
Okay, another thing I want to talk about real quick is it wasn't officially announced, I don't believe, at CES, but there are some spy photos of NBA Jam. Can you talk about that?
Say what?
I'm a big basketball fan, you know what I mean, Glenn? What I can tell you is that wow, you got me. That was really good. We're a big fan of NBA Jam. We love it, and we hear our fans.
Okay, so that's something it's something in the works potentially, but you can't talk much more beyond that.
Yeah, we really try. We really respect the boundaries that our IP holders ask us to undertake, and a lot of times we have things that are quote unquote under lock and key because they're there for potential brand holders to see or other things. So we really want to just respect that process.
That's fine. Now I know you have a busy morning, and I'm tying up here. I want to ask you a couple of things real quick about other things that are there. Mostly the wallcades and the barcades. Now I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
I've seen wallcades once in a while, but it never really got my attention. But now when I see how you guys are presenting it, you can put it on the wall, you can put it on a door, or you can put it on the table. Yeah. I think that's a great idea. Where did that come from?
I got to tell you something. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. We have the people in our company are passionate about what we do. We are truly passionate, and that is something that came directly out of our brand manager, Jason. We were sitting around a product brainstorming meeting about ways to offer different types of opportunities. And at the core of what we do, the DNA is we like to say we want to bring a true arcade experience at home at an affordable price, right? And Jason walked into me one day and he goes, "I want to show you something that I've seen on Etsy, actually." And it was, basically people spending a couple $1,000 basically building machines that they modded into their walls. And I go, "Wow, that's really cool." And he goes, "Good. Well, what do you think about this?" And he pulled it out and he had a piece that was working right there. And I just looked at him and I go, "That's the greatest thing I've ever seen." I mean, that's cool. How do we do that, right? And the team put their hats on and they worked feverishly to make that product come to light.
So was that like a last minute kind of idea before CES? It wasn't like planned further back?
No, it was planned about. It's been in the works for about 6 months, but we didn't know if we were going to have it in a position to properly show at CES. And And so, want to be careful how we show things, because we think presentation, is first impact.
Right.
So the guys really work their asses off to make sure that they can show up properly there. And we're excited about that. That to me is, if you are in a dorm room or if you're in a small apartment, whatever, it's just cool. And, or if like I don't think that the build on our Arcade1 is a big deal. Most people tell me they can do it 30, 40 minutes. But with Wallcades, by way of example, you pull it out of the box, you plug it in the wall, you're ready to go. There's no build, there's no nothing.
Yeah, I think it's an amazing idea because these are 3/4 scale and they do take up less room. And let's say the 60 pounds, they are easy to move when the girlfriend says, move it out of the room. But they take up even less space, and it fixes another issue. Now, me personally, I'm going to be 50 myself this year, and I actually prefer sitting down now. So he's actually, I think, phenomenal for sitting down. But I can stand up too. I have the risers. But with the wall cage, you can 6 foot, 5 foot, 4 foot. It doesn't matter. You can set that anywhere you want, and that takes that out of the equation completely.
Correct. And you can actually, I don't know if you noticed or not, but not only can you set it to the wall the way you want, but based on the way that we're doing the bars that go over the door, you can actually just adjust it right there on the spot. It's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. And then another thing I saw, and I've seen it a couple times in the past, the last thing I want to touch on is, again, we talked about in bars and as kids and pizzerias. I used to love playing, it was Crazy Climber was the game, and old Robotron, and a cocktail table. And we've seen your cocktail table. Is that something that's really, still really in its infancy, or is it something a little more advanced?
You will see cocktail tables out in fourth quarter 2019. We are officially, I can tell you that we're going to be launching with our Capcom series, and it's going to be loaded up with a series of different games. And it's a very, very, very cool product, and that is something that
Capcom versus Marvel will be a good one to stick on there. Just saying.
No comment. But what I will tell you, and I don't know if you guys got this or not, it is the very first time, to my knowledge, I could be wrong, that anybody has ever been able to play Street Fighter in a head-to-head format.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was actually very, from the videos we saw, one of my subscribers, and is on my fan page, Keoden, I was playing it, and that machine was never available in a cocktail to begin with. It just wasn't a format that it was, let alone that split screen mode. It looked really interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So we did the split screen mode. Again, I take zero credit for that. That's our development design team. And it's funny because when we actually showed it to the gamers, actually at Capcom, they were blown away. They were like, "Wow, there's no one's ever done that before." Like just that interpretation. And so that was exciting for us. For a company that wasn't, didn't have our DNA as gamers, but our DNA is manufacturing and development and bringing products to retail and bringing smiles to people's faces. I like to say, I was really proud that we were able to deliver something that kind of hit not only to the general public but really answered a solution that I think some of the gamers thought were pretty cool.
Well, I'm getting rid of my tables in the house. I'm gonna have those everywhere.
Cool.
That was one of the things as a kid. I always wanted one of those. Now, Scott, listen, I know you're very busy and you're actually out there doing work. I really appreciate your time here with me on the show to talk to myself and all my listeners. Is there any last things you want to say before you go?
Yeah, number one, Glenn, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And
My pleasure.
I want to say again, we are a work in process. And, we are real. Right? I will say that I don't know a lot of other companies, to my knowledge. And I've been, like I said, in the manufacturing space for 30 years. We listen to the people. Tell us what the problems are. We hear you. But also remember, it takes time to bake a cake.
Right.
And bear with us because we're getting it right. And we want to do right by the fans. So thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. And I think that keep stay tuned. A lot more to come.
Excellent. Scott, listen, have a great time out there and have a safe flight back. Thank you so much for joining us today in Glen's Retro Show. So everyone, I hope you were able to enjoy the small interview I was able to get with Scott, and a big, huge thank you to Scott for putting some time aside for Glen's Retro Show and the official Arcade1UP fan page on Facebook during his very busy schedule he has out in China right now. To talk a little bit about Arcade1UP and where they're going. If you haven't already, please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, and if you're not and you're on Facebook, please do join us on the official Arcade1UP fan page on Facebook, where we talk about none other than Arcade1UP. So everyone, thanks for watching, and remember, game on.
Glen at the Tiny Arcade fan page. Remember, don't admire people too much. They'll disappoint you.
Sit, Blue Blue, sit. Good dog.